So, good morning, everybody. Oh, Pandey. Oh, this is it. This is the matter. Can you see? This is the oh, that area. Now, indeed, firstly, I want to express my greetings to our long time, our friend. And this is something reunion. I believe, I think last more than 20 years, our small group, I think, out of our serious discussion, at least I think we made some contribution. Firstly, for our knowledge about reality, external matters, particles, and our inner world, particularly most sensitive inner world, that is emotion. I think through our discussion, I think some point seems, I think, become clearer. And through that way, I think our discussion also brought some, I think, the impact. I don't know, impact, I don't know.
Effect.
Those people who usually not much serious about our inner world. I think our discussion brought some
recognition of interest.
Bring some interest. People who normally not much concerned about our inner world. Not necessarily as a religious matter, but simply we are living being with mind, with consciousness, with experience, emotion. So naturally we cannot neglect these things. We want happiness. Happiness is kind of mind. So the very meaning, the very fact of joyfulness is emotional, mind.
Mental state.
So we must know better awareness about that. So I want to express my deep appreciation to our long-time participant, and I must express my deep appreciation and kindness. One, Francisco Varela, and then also Livingston.
Bob Livingston.
Bob
Livingston.
Of course, these are no longer with us, no longer on this planet, but their contribution still remains. So, then, all new participants, this time more people. I appreciate you come here. Not easy to reach here, but in spite that, out of your interest, out of your enthusiasm, come here. So I appreciate. And I'm sure our new participant certainly can make equal important contribution. So, then, what else I should say? Perhaps I may say something. I believe whatever sort of object, whether destructive or whether constructive, whether destructive or constructive, whether you achieve satisfactorily that goal, much depend on the method. Method, realistic method, certainly should bring satisfactory result. Even destructive work. Realistic method can be more effective. Then, now in order to carry a realistic method, it is very important you know the reality. Now, reality, there is always gap, appearance, and the real substance reality. There is gap. I think animal, I think their method in order to achieve their goal, much based on just appearances. We human beings, more advanced. Now, not because of the satisfy, just appearance, more deeper reality. Now, so far, as we call modern science, is focusing external matters, try to know the substance reality. So quantum physics, all these eventually found. Marvelous. Meantime, as I mentioned earlier, everybody seeking a happy life, happy day. That means calm mind, peaceful mind. That's also very important for physical health. Very clear. So, therefore, it is illogical while we are satisfied just appearances, but try to know the deeper level about external matter. So why not? Similar attitude towards our internal science or internal thing. So then, automatically, about emotion. Very important. Our life is ups and downs. In our life, I think main factor which brings our life too much ups and too much down is emotion. So it is logical. It's very important to know the very thing which our life become happier or much stress, much disturbances. So therefore, this is not just religious matter, but this is a matter for a better world, happier world, isn't it? So anyway, our work for academic level, but that academic work actually bring to clear the reality. And more better knowledge about the reality, our method can be more realistic. Through that way, our goal, whether constructive or destructive, can be achieved. So, hopefully, our finding will not help, would not lead or help those people who are seeking some destructive goal. Some people who want to manipulate others' mind, that better knowledge about mind, about emotion, then they may use these in order to destroy the other. So that's all.
English.
On a brief.
No, I'll just give a very brief summary. His Holiness was explaining to the Tibetans that it's been now 22 years since this series of dialogues began, and at the initial stage, among the Tibetans, and particularly among the monastic members, there was quite a high level of skepticism about the whole value of this kind of dialogue. And some, even among Western Buddhists, there was a perception that this kind of dialogue may be destructive in the long run because it might undermine the stability of the Buddhist faith. Regardless of these kind of attitudes, His Holiness said that he had been very convinced of the value of this kind of dialogue and pursued, and over the years it has become very evident that in fact there is a real value. And through this discourse and conversation, not only are there possibilities that the scientific pursuit can be, contributions can be made from Buddhism to scientific knowledge, but also from the science side. There's a lot of aspects of the scientific insights and knowledge that the Buddhists can learn, which will help expand and update the Buddhist understanding of the kind of material world. And so he just wanted to inform that to the Tibetan people who are here. And this time, His Holiness mentioned that there are quite a large contingent of Tibetans who are participating in this dialogue, including lamas and geshis and monastic members, but also some members of the laity, young Tibetans who have had studied modern medicine and other professions that are related to science, and he's very happy to see them present here, because when we speak of this kind of Buddhism and science dialogue, we're not only talking about a matter that is of interest and concern to the monastic community alone. In fact, even the young lay Tibetans, they inherited a tradition is Buddhist faith, and Buddha himself encouraged his followers to test his word and accept the validity of his teachings on the basis of their own experiment and investigation, not on the basis of devotion and reverence. And behind this statement lies a certain confidence that the insights that the Buddha has found are those that can withstand analysis. And so therefore, any insights that can withstand analysis, the more it is exposed to investigation, the more it will be able to demonstrate its strength and richness. And this is in fact what has happened in the case of the dialogue between Buddhism and science. Of course, we mustn't forget there might be some individuals whose approach to the Buddha Dharma may be purely devotional, in which case then they don't have the strength and the depth of the understanding of the Buddhist teachings. Then for these individuals, when they are confronted with the fact that the science rejects the existence of Mount Meru, which is the center of the Buddhist cosmology, then they might immediately get so shocked and start losing faith. But on the other hand, those who do have a deeper knowledge of the Buddha Dharma will have grounded their understanding upon the teachings of the Four Noble Truths and the Two Truths. And for these kind of people who have a deeper understanding, then they will come to recognize, actually, as you engage with someone who represents a very critical perspective towards your own position, in fact, this kind of dialogue will enrich your understanding and make your own understanding stronger and deeper. So this is something that I wanted to share. And although in our explicit aim of this kind of dialogue is to help expand the wider body of human knowledge so that we have a better understanding of reality, including the mental world, but ultimately the goal of that, particularly from the Buddhist point of view, is to help promote towards elevation of suffering and happiness of the world. And so through expansion of knowledge, we will be able to contribute towards that. And that's ultimately the ethical motive behind our endeavor.
So that's all. Thank you. Now I'm acting like Student.
A student.
David?
Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Excellent. Your Holiness, it's an honor and a pleasure to be with you this morning. Thank you for having us all here with you today and for the week. Let me begin by telling you just a little bit about myself, since you will be spending quite a bit of time with me this week. Perhaps more than you wish. My name is David Meyer. You may call me David if you wish. I'm a professor of psychology and cognitive science at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor. My hometown before going to Michigan was Louisville, Kentucky. I was born in Louisville during 1943, so I'm now 66 years old, 8 years younger than you. This is what I looked like back then. Those are my mother and my father. This is what I looked like when I was in high school at the time when you escaped from Tibet to India. I was 16, you were 24. I know that you're somewhat familiar big change, yes? Even bigger now, yes? I know that you're somewhat familiar with Louisville. It's also the hometown of Muhammad Ali, who went to high school there at the same time as I did, and whom you have helped to learn more about compassion. I hope you may do likewise for me. Louisville is also near Gethsemane Monastery, which was the home of Thomas Merton, who came to visit you in India just before he died. You have visited his grave site in Kentucky about 10 years ago, so you know a lot about where I came from. Also, my mother grew up on a farm in southern Indiana near Bloomington, where your older brother, Tupton Norbu, taught at Indiana University. This is another way in which you know at least a little bit about where I've come from. I also know a little bit about where you came from. I've read some of the books that you have written, such as The Buddhism of Tibet. Very good book. Very good. In the year 2001, I went to Tibet and visited Lhasa. I have seen your old home, the Patala Palace. This is a photograph of it that I've taken. I've been to the Jokang. I've traveled to Samye Monastery. I've climbed up to the caves of Padma Sambhava. And I've been in your bedroom at Norbalinga. I hope that someday you may get to go back there too. Now, you've said that you're just a simple monk. Such may be so. But you're also the greatest living, famous person. There are many famous living people, but they are not great. And there are many great living people, but they are not famous. Only a few living people are both famous and great. You are one of them. You also appear to be living, which is very good. You have done more to help humanity during my lifetime than anyone else I know. So it's a unique privilege to be here with you today. I am just a simple professor. So please have compassion for me during our meeting. So, what I want to do at first is to describe for you and others in the audience a bit more about the topics for our meeting of this week. The meeting will deal with the topics of attention, memory, and the mind. So, just to make sure that everyone knows what we will be talking about, I will give a few brief, non-technical definitions about what I think these words mean. So, for example, attention. I will take attention to be the mental faculty that enables sentient beings to concentrate their perception, thinking, and judgment and actions on selected important objects. For example, right now, I'm trying to pay very careful attention to you and a little bit to the audience. By memory, our definition will be the mental faculty that enables sentient beings to store and recall knowledge learned from past experience for present and future purposes. I assume that both the definition for attention and the definition for memory have at least some similarity with what Tibetans would expect them to mean. This is not new territory for you, of course, but at least now the audience will know that we are all on the same wavelength. Finally, the mind. Far be it from me to tell you what the mind is, but I will try anyway. So for me, the mind is the complete collection of subjective experiences, knowledge, and processes, including both conscious and subconscious ones, and this is very important for Western scientists, that enable sentient beings to think and act intelligently. Now, I happen to believe personally that other beings besides humans are able to act intelligently as well. The monkeys that you have outside are smarter than me. So they surely have minds as well. And there will be issues that arise during the meeting about to whom does the term the mind completely extend. And we will discuss that. Now, attention and memory and the mind are important because, as you already mentioned today, all sentient beings would like to suffer less and be happier. And to decrease suffering and increase happiness requires training the mind. Mental training involves practicing to get control over the attention. And mental training also involves using memory effectively to cultivate wisdom and compassion. So, careful study of attention and memory may help to achieve the goals of all sentient beings. And this is what we wish to do. Now, for the meeting, we have a structure, and I call the...
His Holiness was saying that in this hall you will see tankas hung around, And these are the tankas of 17 great Nalanda masters whose writings are important for the Tibetan tradition. And listening to your presentation, it sounds as if one of those panditas were alive, they would be making the same kind of presentation.
Well, you are putting a lot of pressure on me. So, we shall call this the wheel of mind, and it provides the structure for our meeting. At the center of the wheel will be Buddhism, and we will think about Buddhism the entire time. Around the perimeter of the wheel go various spokes. We start with the contemplative studies, which will be represented here. Also, there will be philosophy and phenomenology, such as interested especially Francisco Varela. There will be developmental science, which
developmental psychology.
children, young adults, old adults like you and me. This will be connected to neuroscience, the science of emotion, which we call affective science, and cognitive science. So in the circle here are individuals whom you have now met that represent each of these points on the wheel, including the center. And specifically, the center is represented by you. You will be one of our experts on Buddhism. For contemplative studies, we have Alan Wallace, whom you have met, and Rupert Geffen, whom you have also met. An old one and a new one. Another new one who will represent philosophy and phenomenology is Sean Gallagher, back there. Representing developmental science and also, to a certain extent, neuroscience are Adele Diamond, there. And in the far corner on your left is Amishi Jha. For neuroscience, Buddhism, affective science, developmental science, cognitive science, and we will see about philosophy and contemplative studies, is Clifford Saran, another old one. For affective science and neuroscience, we have another new one, Liz Phelps. And finally, up in the left corner for cognitive science, we have Anne Treisman sitting there, and me when I was much younger. So these are the individuals with whom you will be interacting this week. The goals for our meeting, we actually have many of them. I will try to mention them briefly. The first goal, which is the one for why Mind and Life was established in the first place, is to cultivate productive dialogue between Buddhism and science. Our second goal, equally and even more important, is to relieve suffering and increase happiness. Everybody agrees about this. Thirdly, we would like to improve our understanding of the attention, memory, and mental control for training the mind. We want to explore links between attention, memory, emotion, and compassion and try to understand better how they are connected to each other. We want to advance contemplative practice by thinking about developing new types of meditation methods. And we would like to design future research of interest to both science and Buddhism. We would hopefully come from this meeting with ideas for new exploration, such as has taken place during the past 20 years through your collaboration with Mind and Life. Now, these suggestions are primarily for the audience to help them understand the speakers, including both me and later ones. Please look at the pictures and graphs, but do not try to read all text on slides, because, at least for me, that is sort of what I'm doing. And if you just listen to me talk, you will be fine. Listen to presentations and dialogue. If we are talking too fast, please ask us to go more slowly. So, my presentation for today is entitled Multitasking, Meditation, and Contemplative Practice. I need to define some of these words for you. For me, task is a word that means a piece of physical or mental work that is done by using a specific procedure in order to achieve a desired goal. For example, brushing your teeth is a task. It has a goal. This is to get your teeth clean, and you have a procedure for this. You use a toothbrush, toothpaste, and away you go. Solving an arithmetic problem is another kind of task. There are many, many tasks. Multitasking is a word that concerns trying to do two or more tasks by working on them at the same time, which we call simultaneous multitasking, or by switching back and forth between tasks, which we call sequential multitasking. So, here are some everyday examples of situations where multitasking takes place. Parenting children while washing dishes involves multitasking. Being the parent with the children is a task, and washing the dishes is a task. And in the United States and Europe, for sure, adults actually try to do both of these tasks more or less at the same time. Using a cell phone while driving a car involves multitasking. Driving the car, you want to get somewhere. Calling a friend, that's a different task. Working in a business office involves much multitasking. And controlling airplane traffic at an airport involves much multitasking. In fact, so much that these people have quite a bit of trouble. So, why is multitasking important? Multitasking provides insights into the nature of attention, memory, and mental control. Multitasking is very frequent in modern society. 90% of adults report that they multitask, at least in the United States and Europe, and places like Japan. Over 60% of these people say, there is too much. It is getting worse, so I need 8 arms and legs. Furthermore, multitasking causes suffering and confusion, as you can see here with this individual who is completely confused. The confusion is so great that in popular American culture, songs are being written about this phenomenon. This is one. My mind's got a mind of its own. My mind has a mind of its own. It takes me out walking when I'd rather stay at home. It takes me out to parties when I'd rather be alone. oh, my mind's got a mind of its own. I've been doing things I thought I never would do. I've been getting into trouble without ever meaning to. I'm no sooner settled down than I am right back up again. I feel just like a leaf out in the wind. And so it goes. And this is the song. The singer of this song is a prominent Buddhist in America, Jimmy Dale Gilmore. He has performed for the Tibet House in New York City to raise funds. And he is the performer for this song. And, well, we've had enough of that. So, reasons to study multitasking. Suffering caused by multitasking may be decreased by careful investigation. Scientific discoveries about multitasking are relevant to Buddhism, meditation, and contemplative practice. Meditation may help people to cope better with the challenges of multitasking.
I was just referring to, sometime in the past we had discussions about how some individuals are able to switch from one to another very easily without getting stuck.
Yes. We will discuss that further. Now, because time is short and I want to make sure you know what my conclusions will be because they will provide later discussion, I will tell you some conclusions now. And then I will present further material to help support them. So the first conclusion will be that meditation involves multitasking. And I will show you how this can be so. The second conclusion will be that scientific research on multitasking can actually help to improve contemplative practice.
Multitasking call research habit.
A third conclusion will be that right mindfulness and right concentration can be understood on the basis of scientific theories about multitasking.
Right mindfulness, right mindfulness,
Furthermore, differences in people's abilities to meditate may depend on how well they can multitask. Here are a few more major conclusions. Data on multitasking suggests that mixing meditation methods in certain special ways during practice may be especially beneficial. Also, data on multitasking provides tests of Buddhist theory from the Abhidhamma. And multitasking is crucial for collaborations between first-person and third-person research. So, how can this